Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, the family is going to enter the chapel. At this time, I ask everyone to please rise in place as the family enters. The kids and their spouses should be in the first row, and then grandchildren. Please be seated. We're just going to wait. Exactly.
Yes, definitely.
What time do you have?
What time do I have? 2 o'clock.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral services of Mrs. Barbara Buckner. Rabbi Nancy Landsman from Congregation Ahavat Olam will be officiating. To those who are here, please take a moment to be sure that your cellular phones have been turned off, and we welcome those of you who are joining us through the live stream. This time we're going to begin the funeral service.
Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the mountains. From whence shall my help come? My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Truly honored to be officiating the service this afternoon for Barbara. And I want to thank all of you who are here and those of you who are joining us remotely. Thank you for coming here to lend your love and your support to the family. Yes, of course, they are sad to say goodbye to Barbara, but this truly is what they want, a celebration of Barbara's life. We have to be grateful for all the long years that she lived, and it truly was a life well lived, which happens to be the name of the poem I'd like to share with you. Unfortunately, the author is unknown. A life well lived is a precious gift of hope and strength and grace from someone who has made our world a brighter, better place. It's filled with moments sweet and sad, with smiles and sometimes tears, with friendships formed and good times shared, and laughter through the years. A life well lived is a legacy of joy and pride and pleasure, a living, lasting memory our grateful hearts will treasure. Just a couple of days ago on Yom Kippur, many of us rabbis read a reading that we read not only on Yom Kippur at the Yizkor service when we remember those who are no longer physically here with us, but we often read this poem at times such as this, because the poem written by Rabbi Elvin Fine speaks about our loved one's journey and how unique each journey is, and how blessed we have all been to have been a part of their journey. So as I share this reading with you, I invite you to think about the times you were with Barbara and all the laughter and celebration, as well as the times of sadness. But whatever it is that comes to your mind as you think about her journey and how unique it was and special it was that you were able to share it, I share with you now. Birth is a beginning. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "What is success? To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a loved child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded." From what I learned about Barbara, I think you can all agree. She succeeded big time. We turn now to our service folders where we find the 23rd Psalm, a psalm that I think speaks to all of us regardless of our faith. So I'd like to invite all of you to join with me, as well as those of you joining us remotely. If you know the words to the 23rd Psalm, please join with us. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Barbara was blessed with so much love from her family. The author of the following is unknown. One of the greatest gifts that life can give to anyone is the very special love that families share. As years go by, it's good to know that there will always be certain people in our lives who care. For there are countless things that only families have in common, and memories that no one else can make. And these precious ties that bind a family together are bonds that time and distance cannot break. How fortunate we are when we have relatives to love us. It makes the world a happy place to be. Few gifts in life will last as long or touch the heart as deeply as the very special gift of family. So today we have some speakers. It's my honor to first call upon Barbara's children, Steve, Howard, and Jill, to come forward.
So I'm going to speak first so I can actually pay attention to everything else that's going to take place. Steve's going to give a little bit of a rundown, an idea as to Mom's timeline. I'd like to just share a little bit of a few stories about her personality to give you a little bit of a feel and a taste for her sense of humor. And one of my first memories in thinking back these last few days was about how my mom would always put herself out for any of us. She would think about what we really wanted, needed, and always seemed to make it happen. So I remember growing up, all I did is want to play ball. And my dad got me a Rawlings big wheel Ken Boyer model. And I was in third grade, and I wanted to play catch. But Dad was working, nobody else was home. So my mom grabbed a mitt, came out on the front lawn, and played catch with me. There was always a really fun memory. We grew up in a traditional style where Dad was working, Mom was home. And back in those days, your parents didn't have any idea what you actually did. But guaranteed lunchtime, after school, dinner time, we'd race home, and knowing that Mom was there always was such a comfort. Always had great meals. We'd be gone immediately after the food, but knowing that coming home from school and having your mom there, what a great feeling. Our house was a little bit crazy, a little bit wild, and as we grew up, we had a wild dog named Bruno. And Bruno had a leash. Mom, we'd make her crazy. We would get her to the point where she's ready to kill us, and she would take the dog's leash and she'd come after Steve and I, ready to just kick our ass. Well, time had gone on, and we're both getting a little older, and Mom's on a rampage, and Steve and I look at each other, and Mom's 5 foot nothing. She's coming in ready for bear. And Steve and I smile. We each grab an arm. We lifted her up off her feet.
An elbow.
By her elbows. Lift her up off her feet. And she's kicking and screaming until she got to the point where she just started laughing. And she realized it didn't work anymore. God, we had children, and I'm driving to the hospital one day. And I call up. I said, called Mom up. I said, "You bitch, I hate you." Now, when some people say that, not everybody calls their mother a bitch. We had a little bit different relationship. So, "You bitch, I hate you." She said, "Okay, so what did I do?" I said, "You wished him on me." She said, "Okay, so what happened?" Says, "I'm on my way to the hospital. Benji needs a few stitches." To which my mom replied, "I never wish stitches."
Mom called Howard a son of a bitch, and he looked at her and said, "Yes."
So Mom would come over every Sunday. We had a tradition where, God, this goes back to our grandmother, and every Sunday our grandmother and grandfather would come over to our house for dinner. And that tradition continued with Mom. Mom was independent. She would never live with anybody. She would never, wouldn't ever consider living with any of us. She always wanted to be on her own. So we'd pick her up. And one day, my car has the ability to raise and lower. And so I go to pick her up one day, and I decide I can have a little fun with her. So I raised the car up as high as it would go. And Mom is reaching up, trying to get in. And it's like a little bit more challenging. And she is getting shorter. She is shrinking. But she's having all kind of trouble getting into the car. And I'm just sitting there busting a gut because she was having trouble, and I finally let her know. And, she took it exactly how she should have taken it, exactly how it was meant, with love, funny, and it was always a treat. Throughout the years, Mom never wanted to be an obligation. Mom was a joy. And Sunday won't be the same without her.
The timing of Mom's passing is very important to us. She passed during the significant Jewish holidays, as did my kid's mom. And our obligation to mourn them during these days of awe is to celebrate her life, not to mourn her death. I didn't write a speech, but I wanted to share the knowledge. During the days of awe, God is especially close to us. It's said the day a person passes is significant, expressly stated with regard to tzaddikim, especially righteous people. The fact that she passed at such a time, such a holy time, is something special. Mom was born in 1924 Her dad was out on the street looking for someone with the car, and she came quickly. So when her dad came back, couldn't find a car, he met his baby daughter. She grew up with the Iceman, the Milkman, and their horse and wagon, bringing the things she needed. During the Depression, extended family lived together in a small apartment. Their telephone had a coin box, and you'd drop a nickel in to make a phone call. Mom's uncles, Maury and Phil, pretty smart guys, drilled a hole, tied a string on, and got away with a couple of phone calls that didn't register. Last month, I was talking to her, and I'd sent a picture to her iPhone, and she said, "Oh, God, I'm such a nerd. I try so hard, but I just can't figure out how to make this work." Well, she was born in the days of telegraph, so she made some progress. She moved to Mexico with her family for her dad to work in his brother's business, sweater business, during the Depression. Mom wasn't completely comfortable. She didn't learn the language. Mom learned the language as a youngster and continued to speak Spanish with a native accent up till last week. And she said, "Oh, well, I have the vocabulary of a young child." So not bad. Let's go in order to a little bit. As a youngster, she was the humble daughter of humble immigrants, and she was expected to get a job and work and find a husband and raise a family. So she'd go downtown. She worked in an office at State and Randolph, and during Passover one year, she'd go into the Walgreens lunch counter with her friends from work. And every day she walked in there, she smelled that bacon, and she drooled. During Passover, our Nana Eva, made her a matzah sandwich, and she went in with her girlfriends for lunch. And she said, "I'm going to do it." She ordered a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich with a glass of milk, and felt that everybody there was looking at her. She survived. She got out, no bolt of lightning. She said, "All right, that's it. Kosher's done." It wasn't long after that that my dad's secretary, Betty Leving, introduced Mom to her boss, and they had a couple of dates and going along real nicely. They liked each other, and there was a New Year's Eve party at Dad's house. Dad was very busy entertaining his friends. Mom and Dad's dad, Papa Jaime, spent the evening in the kitchen. Mom wasn't interested in being a third wheel in the living room with Dad. So when the party was over, Papa Jaime said to Dad, "Don't miss this one. This is the girl for you, and if you blow it, we're keeping her." So my first memory, my first clear visual memory is picking Mom up at the hospital with the baby. I was 2 years and probably just about 2 years and a couple of months. And I remember Mom getting into the car with a cast on her ankle. And last week, I said, "Mom, we got to get this straight. I want to get some of these details saved." what was the story? And she said, well, I was walking from the doctor's office after my maternity appointment, and had you and Jill, 2 and 3.5 by the hand, in high heels, stepped off the bus into a crack and broke her ankle. The lady sitting at the front of the bus said, fat ladies shouldn't wear high heels. And Mom was gracious. She didn't tell her, nyeh. So she spent, 40 years married to the love of her life. And he ran the family with an iron fist, and she always let him believe that. So we lost him at a young age. He was 67, 30 years ago. And it took Mom a little while to get back on her feet. About a year in, she joined a international folk dancing group. And a couple of months later, she says, I'm taking a trip, and cruised down the Volga River in Russia for 10 days. It was 30 years ago. And since that day, has pursued dancing with a passion. Jill's wedding, a month ago, Mom said, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to dance at Jill's wedding. So she grabs nephew Brian and says, come on, you dance with me. And he shuffled around a little bit. She says, you can't dance. Danny, get over here. Oh, you can't dance either. Well, you should have heard her talk about dancing at the V. She'd worked in a community. She'd lived in a community for, 15 years. She was in Atlanta. And had a wonderful dance teacher and a fantastic group of friends, really paid attention and did some very serious work. She had all of her notes, and I asked her, how's the folk dancing? She says, well, the teacher tries. And after class, the people who really cared would stick around. Mom would bring some of her dances down, and she'd give them some additional coaching. It's hard to stay on sequence. Let's just finish by saying she lived an incredibly rich life. I said, Ma, you're almost 100. She says, no, I'm not. And I says, okay, you're 98. She said, not yet. I whipped out my calculator and I said, okay, 97.93. God, I could go on forever. Is there anything I've missed in the sequence of events? Libby, I was telling you, is there anything you could throw in? No. We all got a sense of her character, her spirit, her love. And you can't beat it. She did go out the way she lived. Oh, she says, I'm not stubborn. I just know when I'm right. And she said she was going to make it through Jill's wedding and dance, and she did. And her deterioration after being the little engine that could for so many years, I'm going to walk my mile because if I don't, I'm going to end up pushing a blah, blah around, and I'm not going to do it. So she did, and it was a couple of months ago. She was talking about how things were getting tough, and she couldn't walk. She didn't take her walk. I said, Mommy, you got to walk. And she said, no, and the deterioration was going to come hard and fast. And this was after hospice fired her 3 years ago. She made the choice to leave on her own terms, strong. and positive. And she spent her last week surrounded by all the people who loved her. And on her last day, she was comatose, and the grandkids were filing in, and she would lift her cheek when she heard their voice. I sung to her. I sung, "We love you, Mommy. Oh, yes, we do." We remember Bye Bye Birdie, right? And she'd raise her cheek in a smile, and I'd have my finger in her hand. She'd squeeze it. So Barbara Buckner didn't spend a day dying. She spent 97.93 years living. God bless her, and Daddy's gonna be awful happy to see her. Thanks. We got her grandkids.
Right, it's my honor to call upon Barbara's grandchildren. She was a loving nana, so the grandchildren are going to come forward, and a few of them are going to speak. So, not all of them. All of you are going to speak. 20 minutes each.
Hi, everyone. I'll keep it short, but Nana loved each and every one of her grandchildren effortlessly and unconditionally. She taught us that kindness counts and at times a little white lie is necessary. We shared so many laughs over afternoons harvesting basil and making pesto, her line dancing performances, and the Lawrence Welk show on every Sunday night. She was happy as long as the family was together, so I believe she'd be happy now, and we'll love her always.
Yeah, so I'm Max, Steve's oldest, and Nana was, obviously incredibly special. My first memories of her were of her garden, actually, and just like walking outside and seeing everything she had, and like the way that she, a lot of people were big fans of her pesto, and she grew the basil for her pesto every single year for my entire life until a couple of years ago, and just her passion for doing things and always doing something, always having a project, always, she made quilts for all of us. She made, baby buntings for the babies she knew she maybe wouldn't get a chance to meet, but, wanted to make sure that we all had them. And she was always prepared and always wanted to make sure that we were all, on our best track and, paying attention to what she thought was important for us to pay attention to, and she was pretty much always right. So we'll all miss her, but I think, like everyone's saying, she chose her way out, and really, I will always look at her as kind of my example for how I want to live and go out. I don't think there's a better way to do it. So, yeah.
Hello, I'm Danny. 97 years. It's kind of crazy. So I didn't even think about the horse and buggy. I was thinking Model T, Prohibition, Great Depression, World War II, Vietnam, Pearl Harbor, and about 9,000 pounds of pesto, at least. I think that was like her only vice, making pesto. Did she have any other vices? She made a lot of pesto. What happened to us? I can't think of one of us that doesn't have a vice. I thought about listing them, but don't have time. So that's one thing I'm working on are my vices, and we could all take a page out of her book. Miss you, Nana. We're good? That's it.
You got the oldest from all three of her kids.
So just to fill in a few more blanks, since I did not have the privilege to know Barbara, I'm so grateful to her family taking the time to share some memories, most of which has been covered, but she really was a loving daughter to Max and Eva, and a loving sister to David, all of blessed memory. She was, many adjectives were used in our meeting, actually, and some we've heard, but I think worth mentioning again some of them, and in no particular order. I mean, she really was so loving. You knew how much she loved you. She was strong, she was stubborn, she was welcoming. Her door was always open. She was gutsy, she was always right, and she never wanted to be a burden. You recalled her delicious brisket and her mando bread, amongst other things. You recalled how, people of her age wouldn't necessarily even go near a computer, but she did. Not only the computer and the iPhone and the iPad, she learned how to play solitaire. It would always freeze up somehow, and she would need your help, but she wouldn't ask for help, But she was someone who had a very interesting, this is really worth sharing because I've never heard this before, and I think the family knows what I'm about to share. She would wash the garbage before she threw it out. Think about that. Wash the garbage before she threw it out.
And fold it.
And then fold it, yeah, because, it shouldn't take up too much space, right? So, listen, we all have our quirks, right? And she had her quirks, but she was someone who truly embraced all that life had to offer. She loved music, and she would be dancing around in her living room to music. She would enjoy having the opportunity to travel all over the world and made friends everywhere. And when I said that her door was always open, there were times that some of the family members would come back and stay for a while, not just a day or two, maybe live there for quite a while, or while another house was being remodeled, right? So she's like, sure, come on over, stay here. She just had a loving, loving heart. She loved quilting and knitting and ceramics and crafts. I'm going to go back to the computer because, like many of us, myself included, when you don't know how to do something, what do? You often Google it. So she would Google things, and then she would tell you, you're wrong. I learned on Google, this is how you do it, right? Again, she was always right. I got the sense. Her home was always filled with laughter. And laughter is wonderful medicine. And she was not someone who would like to take medicine. She did not take medicine, in fact. She would go to the store, and she would get vitamins, the health food store, and she would find ways to avoid taking any kind of medicine. And keeping her mind active and her body active, and learning how to use today's technology, and laughter. I think all of these things, and the love that she received from all of you, this is what kept her going and living all the years that she was blessed. I think above all, she loved her husband, Bernie, so much. She was a wonderful mother. She adored all of her children, Jill and Rich and Steve and Libby and Howard and Debbie and the late Elise. She really loved being Nana. And you didn't all introduce yourselves, so I'm going to mention all of your names because you were a big part of her life and brought her so much joy. With Danny and Brian, Max and Sarah, Sam and Kelsey, Jake, Lizzie, Jesse, and Benji. You know how special your Nana was. And she's always going to be right here in your heart. We know that none of us are going to live forever, but we do believe that our soul, our spirit can live on forever. And the way that that happens is by those of us who are still here continue to share the stories and document them in a variety of ways. We know the technology is always changing. So I don't know that a piece of paper is going to go out of style anytime in our lifetime. I could be wrong. But when future generations yet to be born, when they come into this world, they need to know about your Nana. So document your memories and your stories, because you have so many of them and they're great. And they have brought you so much joy. And she has been a wonderful example and role model for you and for so many others. So cherish your memories of Barbara, and may they be a source of comfort to you in the weeks and months ahead. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the memory of the righteous is forever a blessing. And to that we say, Amen. I invite you to turn to your service folders for the concluding prayer here in the chapel. You will, if you're coming with us to the cemetery, you will need your service folders for the mourner's Kaddish. We conclude here with El Male Rachamim. If you are able to rise for this prayer, I invite you to please rise. El Male Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Amsei Menucha Nechona Tachat kanfei hashchina im gedushim uteorim ki zar harakia et nishmat Berta bat melech shalecha leolama bal harachamim yastireha beseter kinafecha leolamim bitzror hachayim et nishmata Adonai unachalata v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure, whose shine is the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Barbara Buckner, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring her under the cover of thy wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may her repose be peace. Amen. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will continue at Shalom Memorial Park Cemetery located at 1700 West Rand. The family will be returning to the Buckner residence at 816 Bluff Street in Glencoe. They'll be together following the interment till 9 p.m. and then Saturday from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Memorial contributions in her memory to Journey Care Hospice would be appreciated. That information is all on the service folder. And for those of you who are joining us via live stream, all this information can be found on the funeral home's website. For those of you who will be driving in the funeral procession, the procession will be forming in our parking lot. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing a car in the back of the procession to hopefully keep other cars from entering the procession. Please use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections. Please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to a cemetery. This time, I'd like to ask everyone to please rise and stand in place as Barbara Buckner's grandchildren come forward. We're going to be serving as pallbearers. Casket from the chapel as well as from the family, then everyone may return to your cars. This concludes the live stream portion here at the chapel. Family come this way?